The DNC kicked off in Chicago yesterday, starting with speeches from President Biden and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Joining us now, Punchbowl co-founder Jake Sherman. He's an NBC News and MSNBC political contributor. Good to see Jake this morning. I wonder what we think of the best approach for Democrats and how to, how do you solve a problem like saying goodbye to the current president, who's going to be president for a while? And should we read anything into it? It was late. He's leaving immediately, right? He's not going to be there for the rest of the convention. The baton has been passed to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, he's gone. He's landed this morning.
Weird?
In California. No, he's no longer the nominee. What is he going to do around here? I think
the other former presidents are there in front and center.
The other former presidents weren't pushed out of the nomination just a month ago.
We're hearing
Joe.
That's not. Yeah, I know, but we're hearing that's not true. We're going to have Hakeem Jeffries on later. I guarantee you. And I was watching someone yesterday, the co-chair of the campaign, saying again and again and again when pressed that this was a decision solely made by President Biden with no coercion whatsoever on that weekend.
Politicians say what they want to say, Joe. Dozens of House Democrats came out and said that Biden was no longer their pick to be the nominee. President Biden saw the writing on the wall, and he got out of the fight, got out of the campaign. But let's be honest about this. They want this convention. I'm here in Chicago now. They want this convention to be about Kamala Harris and her plans for the country and looking forward, not looking backward at Joe Biden's presidency, although they will talk about the progress they think they've made in the last 3.5 years. But the last two Democratic presidents, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, served 2 terms. They left office broadly popular. I mean, there were obviously people who didn't like both men, but they left office broadly popular. And what do they need to do this week? They need to keep the momentum up. I mean, there's nothing. There's only good signs for them right now. They are gaining ground in polls. The down ballot races are looking good for Democrats. They will, unless something crazy happens, get a bump out of this convention. How long that bump lasts and how big it is remains to be seen. But I think Joe Biden did what Democrats wanted him to do. He boosted Kamala Harris. He talked about his presidency, and he left and went to California. And I think that's exactly what Democrats were looking for him to do during this week in Chicago.
Right. I wonder what behind the scenes you do hear. Maybe he's feels embittered, and I guess anyone would at that point.
I mean, wouldn't you? They booted him from the nomination. But listen, It was an untenable situation. It was a huge distraction. I mean, I was talking to Democratic members every day. If he didn't get out that week in which he got out, there would have been more senior people, perhaps Hakeem Jeffries, maybe you could ask him, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, coming out publicly saying that Joe Biden needed to step aside. But he read the room and he got out. And I think that is exactly what Democrats wanted him to do. Well,
you didn't read it for 6 weeks, it seems like, or even longer. I've heard he hasn't spoken to, and we don't want to dwell on, although he's still president. I mean, we can't put him totally in the background. A lot of important things could happen between now and Inauguration Day. But I heard, have you heard whether he hasn't even spoken to former Speaker Pelosi? I mean, I've seen.
He has not, no. And he has not spoken to former Speaker Pelosi. And to be honest with you, I don't know that maybe they will again. But Nancy Pelosi is now effectively publicly saying that she did what she did, which is field calls from Democrats who were uncomfortable with him because she was nervous about winning the election. She has said now publicly she was not impressed with Biden's political team, many of whom, by the way, are still with Kamala Harris, although there are some new figures in that orbit. But no, he has not spoken to her at all.
We've talked about, I think you're a really young guy and incredibly successful. But I remember certain things. I'm just wondering whether the country has really changed. And what I'm talking about now, what I'm trying to get to is we are seeing some policy proposals trickle out very slowly. I mean, it's very hopey and changey still at this point, and excitement and a lot of joy. You know, it's oozing from every pore, lots of joy. But we have heard about some price controls, whether you call them that or not. Maybe it's something you can call it trying to prevent price gouging. 28% corporate tax rate. I'm hearing rumors maybe Gary Gensler might be or even Senator Warren. I don't know whether that's true or not. But in the past,
go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
In the past, the country has been at its core center or center right. Do any of these proposals? She's co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Any of the things she said in the past, if she sticks with the progressive wing of the party, which she kind of led, or at least went along with, through part of when she was in the Senate, I don't know as vice president, but you know, obviously there are some policies that might even go further left if she were at the head, if she were not vice president or president. Does that ever come home to roost with more centrist voters, or do they go full on trying to satisfy the base?
Well, the reality is there are a sizable number of voters who will not vote for Donald Trump, and we're looking for a reason to not vote for Donald Trump. I agree that the country traditionally has been center right. Although if we've now had one Republican president for 4 years since 2008, which might change that dynamic or change that calculus. Now, remember, 28% corporate rate is where the Biden administration was. This is going to be the biggest issue in 2025. Listen, we'll have to see what the composition of Congress is. And that's what gets lost in this debate, Joe, is that we are not ruled by a king, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. We are ruled by a president who suggests policies and Congress takes them under advisement or does not. And if Republicans win the House, there will not be a 28% corporate rate, at least in my estimation.
Or Green New Deal. There's
not a Green New Deal now. So.